In this video, we will cover how you can create omnipresence marketing for your business without necessarily creating more content. By the end of this video, you will have 5 powerful steps that have been recommended by Gary Vaynerchuk and his team on how they actually create only one piece of content and they manage to distribute out of it over 33 unique pieces of content across most of the most important social media today. And in case you don't know who Gary V is,
that's what I'm talking about. 7 million followers.
Step 1. Choose your strongest media. What do we mean by this? It means that you probably have a preference when it comes to the kind of content that you like to create. Maybe you're someone who likes to write and you already have a blog that you're working on. Maybe you're someone who likes video and you want to create videos for YouTube, or you're already making video for YouTube or other social media out there. Maybe you like images and that's why you tend to go with Pinterest and Instagram. Or you can potentially be the kind of person who prefers audio because you like to listen to a lot of podcasts. Either way, those are the 4 kind of different type of media: text, images, video, and audio. So you should be picking the one that you feel most comfortable with, that you feel you're strongest in, if you feel like you are somewhat weak on the others. Now, having said that, there is an advantage to starting with video for your first piece of content that you're gonna put the most focus on. Even if you're doing a podcast, you can potentially film it so that you actually have the video that you can actually upload. Now, why is that? Because later in this list, you will see how we can repurpose this. Why video? Because it's easier to extract the text and the audio, and you can actually get images as well from the video. So as you can see, you can potentially get a lot of content from that content that you have, as long as it's video, as we mentioned before. If you only do one, you focus on one and then you want to repurpose it, it's better if you do video. Having said that, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do video. Maybe you can start with text, then you can put an image onto it, and then you can potentially film a small video or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be a specific science, but just letting you know that if you do video as your one main content, then it's going to be easier to produce these 5 steps and actually dominate and have that omnipresence marketing on social media. Step number 2 is to actually create what Gary calls a pillar piece of content. That is the piece of content that we've been talking about when it comes to create that one piece of content that you put a lot of effort into, and then you can potentially repurpose it in a way that makes sense for each of the contextual social media out there. Now, that pillar content could be a keynote speech that you made. Maybe you were at a conference and you made a speech. Maybe you were doing public speaking. Maybe you were doing something else, anything. Maybe you were doing a podcast or an interview. Anything that you think might be valuable for your audience, even if it's a YouTube video that you normally do or a video for IGTV or for Facebook, then it can still be something that you can break down into smaller pieces so that you can repurpose later. But we'll get into that soon. Now, tip number 3, the step 3, is to actually distribute that piece of pillar content. Now, maybe you are a YouTuber watching this and you create your YouTube video of the week, or 2 videos a week, or however many you create, and then you upload them to YouTube, and that's great. Maybe you share it on Facebook, maybe you share it on IG or on other social media. But what Gary does is that he actually, the same piece of content, he distributes it on his YouTube channel, on his Facebook business account, on IGTV, and he also puts it on his podcast. So essentially the whole thing, let's say he had an interview of about 40 minutes or 30 minutes or 20 minutes, he distributes them on those 4 different media. Now you might be wondering, wait, but if I put my YouTube video on Facebook, people won't come to my channel, like, does that even make sense? Yes, it actually makes sense from the following lenses. What Gary says is, hey, you have a business. Do you really mind that people are coming from YouTube or from Instagram or from podcasts? What you really care about is creating a seamless customer experience. You want to take out the friction. Now, think about it this way. If you only have a YouTube channel and you are forcing people from other media to go to your YouTube channel, that might be good at the beginning because you want to gain traction at that media, social media that you're starting up. But if you're already gaining some traction in it and you have several social media with different levels of traction, then you just want to keep people in the social media that they prefer. If they find you on Instagram and that's where they see you and when they interact with your content and that's where they started following you, yeah, you can let them know that you have other media that they can follow you on when they are maybe on YouTube or on Facebook. But chances are that most people tend to have preferences when it comes to the social media that they use. And what you want to do is you want to keep them in the environment that they prefer, consuming your content in the way that is most comfortable for them, because this is going to enhance the chances that you're actually going to be able to convert them into customers at some point in time throughout that social media. Does this make sense? Another important element of Gary's strategy is that he says that more is better than less when it comes to quantity of content that you're producing. Yes, a lot of people say, oh, I need to have quality, this and that. Yes, but as long as you keep a certain level of quality, the more you produce, the better. And what he says also is, hey, quality is subjective. Some people will find something very, very useful, even if it wasn't useful for others. And the more you produce, the more you see what is it that people actually resonate with. What kind of content do they like from you? What kind of content do they not? And that informs you big time when you're doing things. Also, many of the social media actually have algorithms that tend to favor content production. The more you produce, the better, as long as it's not some crappy piece of content, right? So having said that, does that mean that, yeah, you should just go crazy and produce a lot? Aren't there some social media out there in which the algorithm can actually hurt you if you are producing too much content, especially if it's not getting enough engagement? Well, the answer is yes to that last question. However, one of the things that Gary's team says, what he says is, hey, this is an important debate, because this is a debate of, do you want brand awareness or do you want to just have the algorithm do its thing, right? Now, maybe when you're starting, you want to play more to the algorithm so you can grow quicker. But if you have a business, what you really want is that brand awareness, and that means that the more people see you, the more readily they'll be able to remember you, even if someone doesn't show your face to them. And that ability to recall your face, your brand, without even being shown something suggestive about it is very important for people to actually be able to purchase from you. Step 4. Repurpose your pillar content. Alright, so you have a pillar piece of content, the one content that you put a lot of energy into. It is very high quality, and you actually distributed it on, as we mentioned, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, and on podcasts. A note on the podcast, you probably want to put it on the different podcast platforms that are most popular. I believe Gary distributes his podcast across 10 different podcast platforms. Maybe this is too much for you. You will be able to tell for yourself whether you have enough manpower, enough time, or enough interest in actually doing this. But the more available that your content is to people, obviously the better it'll be for you and your business. Having said that, let's jump back to our tip number 4, which is repurposing and distributing that pillar content. So now that you have that pillar content and you distributed it across different platforms, now what you want to do is you want to grab some of the best parts of it, some of the things that have resonated most with people that have already seen it, or even if you don't wait for that feedback, you want to go in and say, okay, what are some of the most important moments that I can encapsulate maybe on an IG video or an IG story? What are some of the most important parts that I could maybe create as an image? What are some of the things that I could tweet about, right? So at the end of the day, you can take maybe one of the phrases that you feel are important, maybe a quote, and there are some services out there that you can go that you can put your pillar content on, and they will throw you some quotes out that they believe are like quotable, right? You can, for example, take those quotes and tweet about them, right? You can take some clips of the Mayor video that you created or the Mayor podcast that you filmed, and you can actually create an Instagram story or a post about it. And then the repurposing just requires it to go a little bit more viral. As we mentioned in our previous episode, if you haven't checked it, check it out, on how to get to millions of followers on Instagram for free. We talked about actually making your post viral, or giving them the ability to go viral, which means you actually have to just take a clip from that pillar content that you feel is important, that will resonate with your audience, and then just letting them know, hey, tag a friend who needs to see this, or double tap this, or comment below XYZ, right? That's something that you feel will get engagement from your audience. Once you do that, it's very easy to take that same Instagram post or story and then pass it on to Snapchat, right? So you can take something that's very similar, maybe change the title a little bit, or change something that you feel is better for the context of Snapchat, and you go in and you put it there. Now, you tweeted about it, you put it on Instagram, you put it on Snapchat, you already have the podcast from the pillar content. What else are we missing? Well, you can also extract the text from the pillar content, so you can actually maybe redact it a little bit, and you can post it on your website, i.e. creating a blog on your website, so that people who are actually searching Google and not necessarily on YouTube because they just want to find something quick, they can actually find your information on your website, and you give more authority to your website on your niche. That's very important, right? You can also take that text and put it on LinkedIn as an article, so that people on LinkedIn who tend to be more of a professional nature, although now it's a bit more personal as well than it used to be, they can actually see your content as well. LinkedIn is a very powerful social media that you can also use in your favor. Now, Gary's team goes very far, and they actually go also on places like Quora. I'm not sure if they do Pinterest and Reddit, but at the end of the day, you get the idea. The more things you can do in a sufficiently good way, the better. But at the end of the day, repurposing that big piece of content that is of very high quality, that you put all your effort in for that week, it's a very good strategy to actually creating and publishing a lot of different content on different social media in a way that's contextual to the people who are there. And if you see it this way, it's much better to have multiple social media that are doing well and you're getting traction in, because that diversifies the places from which you can actually get the leads for your business. You don't want to be a one-trick pony in case anything happens. Obviously, you can also take the text and use it for your email list, which you may be building on the different social media. And you can also, Gary recommends you jump on TikTok. I know many people don't like that. It's like 15-second videos for Generation C. You have younger crowds there, but it is something that, it is a social media that's getting bigger, and some say, Gary is a big proponent of that, it's probably going to overtake Instagram at some point. And that is possible, given that it's the younger generation that is taking that, and it's a big platform with millions and millions of users. So that's something else that you could also do, like maybe create a very short video, or take a very short video from the pillar content that you feel is going to be good for TikTok and just upload it there as well. Now, obviously there are other media that we haven't mentioned, but I believe we've covered many of the most important ones with YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, podcasts, LinkedIn, and so on. Comment below if this has been useful so far. Finally, step 5 is to actually adapt this information to your specific situation and your business. Obviously, every business is different. Maybe you're building a personal brand, maybe you're building a company brand, maybe you have a business in a niche that's a little bit different, but regardless of the niche, you will be better served if you have multiple social media and you're actually producing content across all of them and gaining traction, gaining more of an audience in each of them, as we mentioned already. So maybe you are the kind of person who produces a pillar piece of content once a week. Maybe you are the kind of person who produces multiple per week. Maybe you're someone who prefers to do something original for each of the social media. Maybe you're someone who's already so busy with your client work and your sales calls that you don't necessarily want to do that, or you are the type of person who is not that interested in the part of producing the content itself. Alright, so now you know how to actually create one piece of good quality content and distribute it across most of the most important social media without actually having to put too much extra effort. And you know the importance of having multiple platforms to create the leads for your business, and how a very successful influencer, Gary Vaynerchuk, is already doing it. You can actually find the information that I'll put it elsewhere on this video so that you can actually check them out and see in a more detailed explanation of what exactly is it that they do. How do they make one piece of content into 33? Also, if you like this video, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. We're about finding and nurturing your ideal occupation or business niche. And even if you don't care about that, once a week we're doing special episodes on dominating on social media and how some very successful people have done it, so that you can take their best tips and do it yourself. I will also show some examples of how I am actually doing it that could be potentially very useful for you.